It's time to soothe, groove, and move those hidden innuendos. Hello, and welcome to the program. Cheers to us. Cheers to all of us.
Cheers to all of us, to 2025 and love.
Absolutely.
Ooh, I'm going to be sipping this through the show.
Please do. Is this your first podcast?
My book came out 2 months ago, and this is probably my 60th podcast.
No kidding. Okay, so I got to know, there's a lot of questions here. I got to know everything about you. But what is this book here? What's the name of the book? What made you decide to write it?
It's Second Acts, Winning Strategies for Dating. And what made me write the book is 166 tactics for dating, including, just dating and online dating and just every kind of dating imaginable out there. But what I really find is when people call me and they want to hire me and they want to use my services or they need help with dating, especially online dating, has been such a big boom, especially the last 5 years. So it's no fluff. I mean, I've been doing this for over 30 years, so it's very direct. It's very business-like, and it's basically an action plan. And I have 166 tactics in there that you can use for dating. And then interspersed within the book, I have 15 worksheets and QR codes with me talking that walk you through the individual worksheets. So for example, the very first worksheet is, where's your head at? Because if your head's not in the right place, you're not in the right place to start dating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And you mentioned the 30 years. Are we talking about 30 years of dating or 30 years with the experience of people dating and you get to feel their stories and write down the trials and tribulations that you've heard from other people?
Well, I have experience since I was 18 years old, but fixing up a high school friend who got married, fixing up 2 of my college friends that are still married to this day. But in 1990, I started a company called It's Just Lunch. It was, and this is the era, there was no online dating, there was no Google. I mean, the internet was still kind of in its infancy. And when I started it, it kind of worked like an executive recruiting system, but except for your personal life. And it's just lunch, so people were meeting for lunch, and it took off. And
I know that site.
I sold it about 10 years ago. We had 110 locations worldwide. I sold out to a private equity group. And really the reasoning for selling was, I got 2 good offers. And on top of that, I really saw the direction of dating and where it was going. Online dating was like a total mess. Around 2000, 2005, 2010. And now, there's 1,400 platforms out there.
It still is a mess, by the way. Yeah, it still is a mess, just so you know.
But there are some good ones. There are some good ones. And, I think that's why people use me, because they don't want to waste their time doing this stuff or feeling like it's a part-time or, a full-time job, scrolling through these people. And then they get discouraged, right? And they quit after 2 weeks. And if they would have been on the right site, had the right photos, had the right bio, and the right messaging, and hung in there, chances are they would meet somebody. So, I'm a big proponent of online dating when it's done right.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, though. Right now, and I actually am a huge proponent of online dating as well. I am a Bumble guy. I've always been a Bumble guy. That's my baby, if you want to call it, because that was the first initiation of me getting introduced to the online world, and it blew up. And it still is an amazing, I love Bumble. I will always be faithful to Bumble. Hinge did a great job as well. Tinder, I mean, let's be honest, it's only there for one reason. But going back, and I love your story, by the way, and It's Just Lunch. I know that in Orange County, it used to be a thriving thing. Everyone was on there. Everyone was making appointments with your company. And I have to applaud you, because that was a very successful dating site or dating experience for people. So I commend you for that. That's an amazing job.
That was one of my favorite offices too, Orange County. Right. Orange County has, I don't know, people are outdoorsy, they're in really good shape, and it's one of my, this is really shallow, but it's one of my best looking markets too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think even more so than Los Angeles, but how I came up with the whole idea, I was living in Chicago at the time, and early 20s, getting married, and a couple days before the wedding, my fiance called it off. And that was the entire like impetus for It's Just Lunch. Oh, I have to do this again. You know, the bar scene's kind of a little old. There's no online dating. There's like,
Right.
what do? Your friends are fixing you up. You know, fast forward. And now, I don't know how old you are.
Should I tell you?
Okay.
Oh, actually, I want you to take a guess here. Let's see. Let's play the guessing game. How old do I look to you?
34.
Gotta love you, by the way.
How old are you?
I'm 45.
Oh, okay. Well, see, Orange County.
Orange
Read some
Orange
more.
County jeans, right?
Yeah, Orange County jeans. Right. Exactly.
But for the record,
Have you
no
ever been
collagen.
married?
I've been married. Yes, I was married for less than 5 years.
Okay, and how
Yeah.
old were you when you got married?
I was 30. I was 30. Yeah.
You were 30. Okay. So when I was doing It's Just Lunch, I was working with my age group at that time, which was 20s and 30s, right?
Yeah.
Then, you know, as I grew up, now I'm working with, hence the title of my book, The Second Actors, which really starts about your age, like the 45 to 65-year-old crowd. And especially when you hit those people that are in their 50s and 60s, like they never imagined, you know, when they walked up the aisle at 25 or 30, like, wow, hey, I can't wait to do this again when I'm
Exactly.
60, you know?
Yeah.
No, you know, they thought it was forever. And then on top of it, I have 3 kids, they're all in their 20s. You know, I mean, they're amazing at, you know, everything online. But there's this big, you know, tech thing that scares off, and now AI scares off a lot of the 50 and 60-year-olds because they don't understand how to use it. And then they still hear those old horror stories about online dating. Like, okay, so you like Bumble. I could totally, if I was probably interviewing you and doing a Zoom call with you, it wouldn't take me very long probably to come to say Bumble's going to be really good for you. And
Bumble has, yeah, Bumble has, and I hope it always will be. Well, actually, let me rephrase. I hope it doesn't for a long time, because I do want to eventually find that special person. And I'll tell you this, truth be told, Bumble did find me my ex-girlfriend who I was in love with. So they did a great job of connecting me with her. And there's amazing women that I've dated. There was actually one last night that I went on a date with. Great gal. But honestly, it's the practice, right? You have to keep, and I reiterate this to a lot of people, is that they get so discouraged. I'm sure you probably hear this as well, is that they're like, I'm just too scared. I don't want to waste my time. That's the whole point. You have to sacrifice that time. You have to understand that you will be wasting more time than you anticipate, because that's the part of dating. You've got to put yourself out there, because if not, no one's going to come at your doorstep and say, here I am.
exactly. And that's one thing that irritates men, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But women will get online, and this just blows my mind. I'm like, what do you think? We're in the 1950s? They'll get online and they'll put everything up, and then they'll just sit there. Like the men are going to flock to them. And I'm like, no. I was married for 24 years, got divorced, and was divorced for 5 years before I jumped back in to online dating, even though I do this, you know, career-wise and professionally, and love what I do. But my first week with online dating, I mean, I jumped right in. I went on 5 first dates, and every single one of the men that I met, I reached out to first. And you can't just be sitting there passively, or you can't be sitting there, you know, like a wink, smile, rose, really have something to say. And then my male clients, they're like, oh, you know, she sent me a wink. She basically kicked the ball back in my court, and now I have to do all the work, you know? And I'm like, oh, come on, women, let's get with it.
Can we talk about that too? And again, I love men. I am a man. I'm raising a man as we speak. I'm also raising a woman as we speak. But the thing is that there is an uphill battle. And I can't tell you how many times I see this, not only on my TikTok feed, but through my guests on the podcast, that they've voiced their frustrations with men. And there is a lack of emotional intelligence that these men cannot possess, because they just don't want to. They're expecting women to go and grab them. They're expecting women to go to a bar and go up to them. And I tell these women, maybe we just need a little bit ABC dating again. We need a little bit more help now, because I feel like the past 5 years, men have forgot how to use their mojo, right? We've lost our balls in a sense, right? So I think women need to help us men out a little bit here. Don't you think, Andrea? Because let's just say, for example, Yeah,
Absolutely, I do.
yeah. Let's just say, for example, you are at a bar by yourself and you happen to gaze and see a man across the way, and you see him, you're like, this is the type of guy that I want to be with. For some reason, the man's not going to come up to you because he's probably thinking you're married, you got a boyfriend, you just don't are not interested. But if you were to gaze in his direction, give him some eye contact, to me, that's like a window of opportunity, saying, yes, go and talk to her. Come talk to me. I think that women need a little bit more of that sense to help men because we have lacked that ability to go up to women on our own free will and say, hey, how are you? So maybe, do you think women can kind of help men out a little bit now and bring us
Yes,
back to
I
what we,
think they can. And you know what? That's kind of like twofold what you just said,
yeah,
because it works with online dating and it works organically or in the
absolutely.
wild in a bar. Because that's the whole thing. Self-confidence is very sexy, right?
Right,
So when a woman would like gaze at you or smile at you across the bar, well, that's an invitation to come talk. When
right.
a woman reaches out to you online and with a great message, that's an indication of interest. And that's self-confidence. That's not being passive and waiting for the man to make the move. So I coach that all the time when I'm working with clients. And I think sometimes they're shocked, like at the messages when I'm doing coaching calls and we've got them all set up online. And the first like two coaching calls I do, I tell them we're both on the app at the same time. So we'll both be on Bumble at the same time. And I'll be like, okay, I'm writing your messages, okay? And they'll be like, okay. And I always say, I'm going to read it out loud to you before I send it. So I'll write my message and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you can't send that, Andrea. No way. That's like too forward. And I'm like,
What?
no, we are not here to exchange 5 or 6 texts.
Right.
We are here once, boom. Let's go on a date. If we're, interested, let's go grab a drink, an appetizer. Don't do dinner. That's just stupid.
I agree.
It's way too
Yeah.
long. And I don't like coffee either. I think coffee's a cop-up date.
I love how you said that, by the way, because I am a big proponent of not going on coffee dates because it just defeats the purpose. It's like a friendly date. That's what I think it is.
Right. And it's like women show up in their Lululemons and like, they're not even, come on, let's get with it. I mean, lunch is fine. A drink. I like Saturday and Sundays, like around 4 p.m, meeting for a drink and an appetizer because it's not a Saturday night date.
Right.
It's not like the pressure of that. It's just like, we all know both of us have, plans after that. So it's not like we're
Exactly.
going to,
What do you think about
hang
that
out
though
for
too?
6 or 8 hours.
When it comes to scheduling the dates, I know that the weekdays are pretty much the dates, the date nights, Monday through Thursday.
Right.
But if you happen to make the cut on a Friday, Saturday night, do you think that accelerates you in that type of mind or the type of way of saying, you're actually the type of girl or guy that I want to be with, so I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice my weekend nights to be with you? Does that kind of push those people up in a higher echelon compared to the ones that go on a Monday through Thursday night date?
Well, it depends. Are we talking about a first date?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about it all. First, second, third.
Second or third, yeah. I'm good with that. First, why do it? Why put the pressure? No, it does not push you up anywhere. You want to go for the low key information gathering first date. Is she attractive? Like you said, you went on a date last night. Did you go to dinner?
No, we just had drinks.
Okay, and did you like her?
I did, but I'll just be honest with you. I'm sure she'll probably be listening eventually, but she's an amazing woman. Amazing woman. Is she for me? No, she's not. Did we have a good time? Absolutely. We had a great time, great conversation. But I felt like at the tail end of the date, I was really reevaluating myself, asking myself those questions is, can I see myself with this person? Why do I want to see myself with this person? And I couldn't answer myself truthfully. So at the end, I was like, I don't think that this is going to be the type of girl that I want to spend my life with or have her be introduced to my children and family. So I didn't even kiss her on the first date. I just gave her a nice hug and I said, just text me when you get home. Because I always know that's the fatherly figure in me to always say, hey, text me when you get home so we know you made it safe. But
Okay,
no.
so a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Do you think she felt chemistry and she liked you?
She did. Obviously, we had a second drink together, and again, I want to get your take on this too, by the way, because we brought this up last night. There was energy, but for me, I kind of let my energy like dissipate a little bit more because I wasn't really feeling that. Because for some reason, I just didn't feel that spark. There was in the beginning, but at the end, I was like, let me reevaluate exactly if I want to be with this girl, if I want to have another date with her.
No, you don't. That's the answer. So in that type of situation, I like what you said to her, text me that you got home okay. And if you think she's more interested in you than you are in her, because you already said by the end of the date, there wasn't chemistry. Okay, for something to work out, you have to have common values, good communication, and chemistry.
Absolutely.
Any of those three things are missing, it's not going to work. And I've had people who've said there's absolutely no chemistry, but he's so nice, she's so nice, she's really pretty, yeah, I'm gonna make it. And then they try to force it, and then I tell them, you know what, you're forcing it. It's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. So, the nice way out is, today, since you went out with her last night, it's a little early in California right now, but, midday today, a text, hey, it was really nice meeting you. I don't think we're, the best match, but I wish you a lot of luck.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that, like going back to the energy, do you feel that if you don't feel that energy within the first hour or the first date, do you feel that that energy can be repossessed on the second date? Do you feel that that can actually happen?
Sometimes.
But not vice versa, though.
No. So, okay. So if you had said this to me and you didn't, if you had said to me, I was 50-50 on the chemistry thing, then I would say, absolutely go out with her again. But you didn't say that. You said at the beginning, maybe there were some sparks, but by the end, and you couldn't see yourself with her, long term, or introducing her, to your son and daughter and stuff. So no, but if you're 50-50, if you're in doubt, always go out. That's like my thing, in doubt, go out on another one, because you'll know by the end of the second. And if it doesn't happen by the end of the second, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Now,
and this is based on 35 years of me doing this.
I love it. Yeah. Now, here's the topic that we're going to talk about now. Date number 3. Did we know about date number 3? Should I tell you what date number 3 represents, or do you already know it?
Tell me. I want to
Date number 3. And again, this may be just my only definition, but I'm peeling the Band-Aid off. I'm being very truthful. My listeners know that I don't sugarcoat shit. For me, date number 3 resembles either you and I are going to have an intimate night together, either my place, your place. Dinner will be involved. There will be some intimacy, just depending on if it's allowed, which it does happen. And we're human beings, right? There's an attraction. But number 3 signifies dinner and intimacy. What's your thought on that?
Yes, my thought is I agree. Like the 40-something age group, the 30-something age group, absolutely, I agree with you. Now, the 50-something and early 60s, they may say it's date 5. They may wait a little bit longer.
What do you think that is?
On it. Pardon me?
Why do you think that is?
Okay, I think it's a couple things. I think when we're in our 30s and 40s, we still feel like, hey, we're pretty hot, we're good looking, we're like, and then I think once you hit your mid-50s, you're like, I feel like I'm a couple pounds overweight, or I'm this, or that, or I'm...
Really?
It's the self-confidence thing. Yeah. I think 30s and 40s, we still feel really sexy. And obviously I'm not in my 30s or 40s. But, I think it takes people longer, bless you, when they're a little bit older. So what you're saying about third date for your age group and where you live, common. Now, if we were in another market, like, let me give you an example, a more conservative market, maybe a Louisville, Kentucky, or Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay. No, even for your age group, it would take longer.
Interesting.
It's like kind of that Midwestern thing. They wait longer. No, if you're in LA or New York, boom, boom, date 3, fine. But there's some parts of the country, you look at parts of like North and South Carolina, they're a little more southern. They'll wait a little longer.
So their game plan probably for those types of demographics are to really be in the longevity of the relationship, not just a third date. If it works out, great. If not, it's okay. But for those types of areas, once they have that intimacy with that person, they want to be in it for the long haul.
Right. Yep. And my clients, like, once they hit their 50s and 60s, like, the intimacy equals exclusivity too. And I don't think most people like you, if you're doing that on your third date, are thinking this is necessarily exclusive, and she's probably not thinking, this is exclusive either. I mean, the third date's pretty early to be like, we're exclusive.
Right.
This is it. I'm not seeing anybody else.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a little early.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. But again, it would be nice to know that on that third date, after you do have that intimate moment with them, that's where you can have a talk and say, I really like you. I think we had a really good time together. Let's make it a number 4. And let's
Right.
see how the 4th date goes. And then I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think number 5 is going to solidify whether or not the two of you want to be exclusive, is to have that dinner and topic again, saying, all right, let's sit down and talk about this.
Right. Because, well, you learned a lot after date 3.
Yeah.
You know, you had dinner, you were intimate, you know if, the two of you vibed, right? And it was good. And if it was good, you're going to go, on the 4th one. And if that's still good, you're going to go on the 5th one. And that's maybe where that conversation starts happening. And sometimes it's not even a conversation. You just kind of fall into it. You know, you don't even have to have that conversation. Or sometimes one of the parties will say, I really like you. You know what? I think I'm going to put my Bumble membership on hold for a while. And that's a nice way to say it, instead of, are you going to put yours on hold? Because then you're putting pressure on you, right? But when somebody says to you, I really like you, I think I'm just going to put my Bumble, I'm going to hide my profile for a while, see what happens with you and me. I would think, as a guy, you would think that's pretty flattering.
Absolutely. I would be in jubilation. I'd be celebrating, doing backflips, and my attitude would be so much different now, because I'm like, I finally found her, right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing too, and I'm sure you probably know, is that a lot of people, they want to find their person, and that's going to happen, but they rush it. They want to go through that first date, and they want to be like, yeah, can I see this person? I want to be with this person. It's a process. You got to be patient, right? You have to understand that you can't just fall in love overnight.
Exactly. And when I'm working with female clients, I can't tell you how many times they'll tell me, maybe we're talking 2 consecutive weeks in a row with coaching calls, and they'll be talking about one man both weeks, so they've had a couple of dates with this person. And I'm listening, and I'll say to them before I say it, I'll say, do you see red flags here, or even orange flags? And they'll be like, no. Do you, Andrea? I'm like, yes, I do. When you said, when you told me that he did this, or he said this, it could be a number of things.
Sure.
That I would just say, I just watch out for that a little bit. Just be cognizant of that, and don't jump in too fast. And then, I have women that after 2 dates, they don't want to see anyone else anymore. And they're like, oh, Andrea, I'm done. You were wonderful. I'm done. I'm like, no, you're not. You are so not done.
What do you think? Because I know that, like you mentioned, the orange and red flags, and I feel like a lot of women just put everything piled up in the red flag and say, yeah, that's it. I'm just going to put all in the red flags. But I feel like there are different, like you mentioned, there are different flags that shouldn't be categorized in those types of categories. Like, for example, I would say if a guy happens to drink too much on a first date, I would say that's a red flag, right? If the guy curses too much, I don't think that's a red flag. Do you think maybe it's the nerves that maybe cause him to curse too much?
Yeah. I put that more in the orange category, or a guy who on the first date talks nonstop.
Yes.
And this is a guy thing. I mean, this is balls in your court right now, because men, and this is based on, the name of my company is 33,000 Dates. I've set up over 33,000 dates, and a lot of men talk too much on the first date. And, they're talking 80% of the time, and the woman gets to talk 20% of the time. And then they'll tell me that, when we download, after the call, after the date, and they'll say, I'm still interested in seeing him again. And I said, well, you're going to have to switch the dynamic a little bit here. And that doesn't mean I want you to go out there and talk 80%. It's never going to be 50-50, right?
Exactly.
But if he starts doing that again, and I think I don't know what it is. I don't know if this goes back to cavemen or what. They want to be like the hunters and the gatherers. I have no idea. And,
You would be surprised, by the way, just so you know, and this goes about last night too. She was like, I feel like I'm talking too much. And I'll tell you, truth be told, I'm a very good dater, as I always ask questions, and I always want them to know that I'm listening. So I would say it's more 80-20, so 80 them and 20 me. So see, are you proud of me? You're proud of me?
I like that you're a good date.
I think I am.
Yeah, I think you're.
Yeah.
Now what you could do, because you're asking questions and you're a good listener, and if it ever gets to the point where, hey, I'm never going to see her again, right?
Mm-hmm.
but I've still got like a half an hour left of this date just to be polite, right? You can pop in, you could just interrupt her very nicely and say, not to interrupt, but I feel like I know so much about you. You must have some questions for me. Shoot.
And that's okay to say? Do you think that's a way of like really interjecting without being embarrassed or embarrassing the moment?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think you'll be like, I feel like I know so much about you. You must have some questions about me. You can ask me anything. I
Got
think
it.
it's a very nice way of saying it.
Yeah. What's your thought
Okay.
on this, by the way, as far as the timeline on a date, on a first date? Do you think that if you have a drink, one drink, and it's about an hour, does that mean that, hey, I like you, you're a nice person, but I'm not interested? Or do you think it means that if we go past the first drink, round two, and it's about 2 hours, we're off to a good start?
Okay, I would say if you're on a 2 hour date and you've had two drinks, you're off to a really good start
Yeah.
because both parties wanted to stay for a second drink because
Yeah.
we both know it's so easy to go, wow, I'm meeting some girlfriends for dinner.
It's
It's
10
so
o'clock.
easy. I've got, oh, it's 10 o'clock.
It's
10 o'clock.
9:30.
Oh,
Oh, okay. European. All
I'm
right.
doing yin yoga at 11. Yeah, no, you know what? I've got early Zoom calls tomorrow. I'm gonna have to call it a night. There's ways to get out of it. But yes, if you're staying for two drinks, I mean that means the conversation's going well. You're having a good time. At this point, you've probably split an appetizer too, and yeah, I would say that's a good sign.
How many second drink dates have you gone on?
Have I gone on? Well, I told
Ballpark.
you when I first started dating, right? The first week I went on 5 first dates. All of them totally in the ballpark. Just like no chemistry. Well, maybe some chemistry with one guy. And I went on 3 dates with him. But then a couple weeks later, I met this other man, Jeff, who I married in November. So he was it for me. So
Amazing.
okay, but you know what? You know what ended up happening with those 5 dates that I went on? Okay, so one I went on 3 dates with. One, we had no chemistry, but as far as business people, like we had a lot to talk about and we had a lot of fun. And he's one of the producers of Shark Tank. So I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. And
Lovely.
he called me a week later and he goes, "Hey Andrea, we're vetting some people." They vet them in 3 parts of the country before they, bring them on Shark Tank. He goes, we're doing this dinner and we're vetting some people and I can bring a guest and you can watch these people present. They each get to do 20-minute presentations. Do you want to come? And I'm like, yeah, I want to come. This sounds fun. Plus, you know what? We both knew we didn't have chemistry, but I was going to a very interesting event
Sure.
and there were 2 women there and like 40 men. I was like, ooh, I like my odds here. That was, I'm not looking for like guy friends, but it was just an interesting thing, to be asked to.
Oh, that is pretty amazing. That's a true sausage party in your favor.
Yeah. So how many of your dates turn into second dates?
Good amount. I would say I have a success rate, and again, not to sound cocky or arrogant here, but I would say like my success rate of second drinks on the first date is probably like 98%.
Okay. And how
Yeah.
many make it to 3?
I don't even make it to 3 because I just don't really care to have 3 drinks unless it's like a
no,
weekend.
no. I mean a third date.
With third date, I'm gonna say about 97%.
97% you're going
Yeah.
on third dates with?
Yeah.
So where's your cutoff?
And I don't know if it's the good thing that I have a podcast about dating that gets me to these third dates, or if it's a curse or a blessing when you think about it. Right? Because again,
Okay.
my end result is to find one girl, but unfortunately I haven't found her yet. But that's just the beauty of dating.
Okay, so here's my other question then. For
Yeah.
you. How many dates are you going out on in a week? And I don't care if it's a first date, second date,
Sure.
third date, or fourth date. How many are you going out in a week?
When I don't have my kids, I say by average 2, maybe 3 a week.
2 or 3 a week,
Yeah.
and then the next week you have the kids.
Next week I have the kids, and then I wait. So what I do is that when I don't have the kids, what I make sure is that I'm in close contact with the girls I went out with. I let them know, and they know that I have my kids. So I keep that open conversation with them. Let them know I'm thinking of you, which I am. I'm not just fluffing their feathers. I really am thinking of them, and I just text them and say, I look forward to seeing you on this day, or I look forward to seeing you on this day. And there's been, again, my listeners know I don't sugarcoat shit here, is that I actually do sometimes plan to go on 2 or 3 dates in a day. Like
Oh,
I've
sure.
had and that's typical, and that should be.
Yeah.
I think that's allowable for a lot of people because that's what dating is. So go out and
Right.
date. So
Yeah, you know what? I think that's manageable for some people. For some
yes,
people, it's too much. Some people can do it.
it's
They can do
expensive.
brunch. They can do a drink in the afternoon. They can do lunch. They can do another drink at 5 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever. So no, I think stacking the dates like that, if you can do it, and it sounds like you can, you know what you need to think about. You need to think about what's missing. Like, what are you really looking for that you're missing out on, because it sounds like you're having a lot of good, solid first, second, and third dates. So, what's the missing piece?
Yeah,
That's what you need to figure out.
that's the thing is that I feel that amazing energy on the first and second date. I feel that energy even more on the third date when we are intimate. On the fourth date, when we do go out, we still have amazing times. But for some reason, there happens to be something that my mind, my heart, most importantly, my heart is just telling me she's not the one for you. This is not the girl that I want to put all my eggs in my basket for. This is not the girl that I want to fight for. And it
Right.
sucks, right? Because in a way, like in a sense, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, and I don't want women to think that I'm just leading them on. It's trial and error. The whole fact that you are going out there, you're dating, you're getting intimate, you're testing it out to see whether or not we can be sexually compatible. Sometimes that may happen because it's just sex, it's intimacy. But sometimes after the sex and intimacy, I reevaluate that question saying, can I see myself with her next week? Can I see myself with her next month? Can we be together exclusively together? And unfortunately, my heart tells me, no, no, I don't want this. We tried, but she's not for me.
Okay. Do you do anything when you hit date 3, 4, 5 besides like eating or drinking?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Like what?
We go out for hikes. I've actually went to a couple of concerts with a couple of the girls I dated. We went to a baseball game one time.
Okay, good. So you're doing other things than just passively sitting at a table.
Yeah.
Good.
To be
'Cause
honest,
you learn a lot about a person. I had somebody last week who really, really liked this guy, and they'd probably been on 5 or 6 dates, and they went to a concert, and they got there a little bit late, and he couldn't find a parking spot, and he got really, really mad. And she's like, whoa, does he maybe have anger issues? And before that, he was like a sweetheart, and everything was wonderful. And then the whole concert, he was irritated by how far they had to walk, to get to the concert and how far they're going to have to walk back. And she was like, ooh, if this is happening on the 5th date, is it going to get worse? My answer is yes. Because you know what? I mean,
he didn't take his pills.
I know. The first couple dates, we are on our best behavior, right?
You would hope, right?
Yeah.
Do you hear that from some of the women that you coach? Do you ever hear them saying, God, he was such an asshole on the first date, or he was a drunk, he was a lush, he was abusive? Do you ever hear that?
Nope.
Good for you.
Nope.
Good.
No, that comes out later. But that's
Yeah.
why you date. That's why you don't, go to Vegas and marry him on the 4th date, right?
And then divorce on the 5th.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you need to figure out, because you're doing a lot of dating. How old are your kids?
My daughter's 12 and my son's 10.
Yeah, and your daughter's at that age.
Oh yeah, they're
My
smart.
daughter was 14 when we got divorced, and that's on purpose. My youngest daughter, that I waited a couple of years to start dating, just because I didn't want men around the kids.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't want to introduce them to anyone who wasn't going to be long term in their life or had possibility of being long term. And she's at that age. Do you have a good relationship with your ex?
Amazing relationship.
Great.
Yeah, we're great friends.
That's great. You know what? That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so a major red flag for you will be if you go out with a woman and she bashes her ex. Yes.
I will tell you truthfully, yes, it is. However, and I'll be honest with you, that was me in the beginning of dating, because you're frustrated, right? When you think about it, the fact is that you're divorcing, going through a separation, you're a little bitter. You're like upset that things are happening to you the way that you didn't expect it to go, right? And honestly, I did. I was bashing my ex-wife in the beginning, and that's my fault. But I made amends with that. But going back to what you're saying is that if a woman is doing that, I for some reason I just say, okay, I understand, but I try not to even talk about the ex, right? Because I want to talk about you and I.
Right. Exactly. I also think, if somebody's bashing their ex or talking about their ex, they're also not really ready. The other conversation I don't like on first dates is, how do you like Bumble? How do you like Hinge? Have you had good dates? And I tell my clients there's only one answer to that. Oh my God, I think Bumble's amazing. I've met the most interesting men, and just not the one for me yet. That's the only answer.
Oh my God, you're gonna love this question here. I'm sure you probably hear this all the time. What are you looking for? What does that mean to you, by the way? Like, right, when you hear that, or like when women ask men, or when men ask women that, like, what do you think about that question? Like, do you think that's just a stupid fucking question that anyone should not be asking?
I think that's the stupidest question. That's one of the questions in my book. Stupid. Yeah, really stupid. Like, what are you, an executive recruiter? You know, am I applying for, you know, the CEO of this company? What are you looking for? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Do you ever want to get married again? What are you looking for? Really? You know, all I'm looking for is to enjoy the drink with you tonight and find out more about you.
Yeah.
That would be my answer. And then
mic drop.
Some of those really direct questions like that, like, really? And I try to think about it like this. You're at a black tie event, or you're at a cocktail party, or you're at a Christmas party or something, and you know some people in the room, you don't know a lot of people, and you're just having like cocktail conversation, right? The third question as you're chatting with somebody isn't, what are you looking for? Or, you're divorced, what happened? That's just...
Yeah, you don't. Or like, it's kind of like the question like, oh, you bought a house, how much did you buy it for? It's just, don't ask those questions.
No, you don't. You don't ask those questions.
Let me ask you this though, because you mentioned the coaching. Curious, do you coach a lot of men?
Yeah, 40% of my clients are men, 60% female.
Amazing. What are their concerns when the feedback that they give back to you after a date? What do you hear back from these men, and how is there a way that we can probably fix that?
Okay, what I hear from the men is they can smell desperation a mile away.
From women or from themselves?
Pardon me?
From women or from themselves?
Oh, from women.
Really?
From women who, you know, all they want is, you know, exclusivity or a long-term relationship. You know, they're just really on the hunt for that. So that's what I hear from men, or a negative attitude, or and it could be, you know, ranting about politics. It could be anything. One of my favorite questions when I was dating, and I did all my dates at the same place.
The same like bar or restaurant? I love that.
It's like I'm in Florida. It's right on the intercoastal. It's right on the waterway. The hostesses all knew me. They'd be like, "Oh, Andrew, your date's outside on the deck." Awesome. I'd be like, "Great. How's he look?" No, where was I going? Where was I going with this one? The
questions that the feedback that men were giving back on the date.
Yeah, the feedback men are giving back on the date. They're giving feedback about. Oh, this is where I was going. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Spacing out for a moment. But one of the things I would ask my date right off the bat, you know, after it's like, "Hi, it's so nice to meet you," blah 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 blah, and I'd be like, "Have you ever been here before?" And most of them would say no. And I'd be like, "Did you have trouble finding it? It's kind of like weird to park, like, right?" And if they said, "I circled for blocks, Delray Beach is a bitch to park in," blah blah, they go on about it for like 3 minutes. I'm like, "Ooh, he's got a little naggy attitude."
Yeah.
Or if they're like, "Yeah, no problem." That's like one of my favorite questions, because you just, you know, here, and I tell people, you know, that like my New Yorkers, ask that question, because if the woman shows up on the date, she's like, "Oh, this rain, my Uber was late, I ended up taking a cab, and I wrecked my shoes." I'm like, really? That's gonna be your best behavior on a first date? Uh-oh.
You're off to a bad start.
Uh-oh, yeah. I mean,
like that question, by the way.
It's the negativity. I mean, hey, like I said, at least on the first date, you know, and the second date, we're on our best behavior. And if that's our best behavior, it's only going to go downhill. So men will talk to me about, you know, they want a woman who's positive. They want a woman who's financially equal to them too.
But not higher?
Oh, I don't care. I don't think they care if they're higher.
They don't care about that. Okay.
But they don't want a woman that is looking, you know, to be taken care of necessarily. I mean, every now and then I get somebody like that, that's, a tens and tens and tens of millions he has, and he could care less if she's a waitress or doesn't work or whatever. But for the most part, people in their 30s and 40s and 50s, they want somebody, on par with them financially. A woman doesn't want to go out with a man, or a man doesn't want to go out with a woman and say, hey, let's go to Marrakesh, for a week. And the woman's like, it's not in my budget this year. Maybe next year I could swing it. Well, maybe they don't quite say it like that, but
Right.
that's kind of the gist of the conversation. They want somebody on par,
Sure.
or pretty close. I mean, they're both not going to be making, 500 on the nose, but they want somebody, in
What's
the same
your
ballpark.
thought on going Dutch, by the way? Because I get a lot of mixed reviews.
Now, that is very regionalized in the US. So in Texas, you would not think of going Dutch.
Yeah.
The men all pay.
Right.
Those Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston guys, they all pay. The guys in the South, they all pay. New York is a whole nother story. Oh, in LA. New York and LA, Dutch, or I've had women say, he's said to her, why don't you get this one and I'll get the next one?
Wait, hold on. Men said that to women? Wow.
In New York and LA. I've heard that. Yeah. So it kind of depends. Now, your market, for the most part, when we're talking about OC, men pay on the first date.
Correct.
What do?
I pay. Last night,
Yeah.
she actually offered to pay for her half. I said, no, that's fine. I appreciate you doing that. And I always appreciate women trying to make that effort by not just, assuming that any man is just going to pay for them, right? Just sitting back. And I get that. But it's always just a nice gesture saying, oh, let me get my half, or let me get this. Like, no, I appreciate you even offering, but no, I got this. Little things like that.
I totally agree with you. And women ask me a lot of times before first dates what to do. And I'll say, oh, when the check comes, if he grabs it, I would immediately say, please, can I help with that? Please, can I help with that? Maybe not half. Not that I'm not saying half, but please, I'd like to help with that. And generally, the man's like, oh no, I've got it. My pleasure.
Yeah. I think we need to make sure that men are more aware of that. Not always expecting women to pay for them. I think that's bullshit, by the way. No man should be like, you got this, right? Where did that come from, by the way? Where are these men coming, and where are they learning the etiquette of treating a woman? I don't know where the hell, they just lost their, like I said, where did they lose their gentleman status? Exactly.
Sorry.
Very good.
That can only be one person, my youngest daughter. That's really, sorry about that. Yeah, where are these men coming from? I don't know. It's New York's a little harsh. It just really is in the dating. One of my daughters, she's 25. She's in New York, and I always tell her that if you haven't found somebody by the time you're 30 in New York, I'm sending you to a high-end matchmaker in New York to find you somebody, because it's cruel in New York. And I don't know if it's, the tech stuff and the Wall Street stuff and I don't know what it is, but New York is really, really a tough dating market, and also not the most attractive people either.
Sure. Do you think it's just an oversaturation of people that's causing this overwhelmingness of people saying, God, I just don't even know who to pick. I'm just over it. This is too many. Because I know women get a lot of matches. I know women get a lot of likes from men, more than men getting from women. So what do you think? Do you think it's like an overabundance of men trying to come on to one person, to one woman?
Yeah, but how would that factor in with the men wanting the women to pay for the date? I don't think it does. I think it comes from almost like
I see. Yeah.
a
Maybe
rudeness.
Sure.
Even okay, I'll give you an example where else I see it, like in New York and Los Angeles. The messaging when I'm working with clients in those two areas, the messages are almost abrupt, almost to the point where, I don't live in New York or LA, but I wouldn't respond if somebody had sent me that type of message that was like a one-liner and a little harsh, So I find when people, soften up their messages, they do a lot better, because I think people in New York are surprised. So it's a tougher market. And so is Los Angeles.
Do you think it's probably better for us to go to voice text? so that way they can actually hear the voice. So instead of me saying, "How was your day?" through text, it's more like, "Hi, Andrea. Just want to see how your day's going. I'm thinking of you. Hope you're doing well." Like, don't you think that that type of message compared to a text is more personal? And also it shows that like that you're taking that time out of your busy schedule to really emphasize on sending her that awesome message.
Yes. And I'm assuming what you're talking about right now is you've already gone on a date, right?
Or not even on a date. We can just talk
Okay.
about like first matching.
Okay, when you're first matching. Okay. So one tool I would say, like if I was on Hinge, I encourage people on Hinge and Bumble to use because it's very effective. You know how they have the where you can leave a voice prompt?
Yes. Yeah.
Do the voice prompt.
Yeah.
Because they hear your voice and you've got a good voice. I mean, you've got a good voice for what you do,
Thank you.
as a podcaster. So you're going to come across well. Like if you had a high squeaky voice, I probably wouldn't tell you to do a message. I have a client who is not in a rock and roll, like in an alternative band, and he sings, he plays the guitar. And he did his singing with his guitar. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
It went over so well with women on Bumble.
Sure.
So well, because it was unique. And he was like, besides, talking about playing the guitar or being in a band, and we heard his voice and he has a good voice. And it was just fun. It makes you want to go out with them.
All right. I'm taking guitar lessons like after this, by the way. I'm going to start learning how to play the guitar.
And voice lessons.
And voice lessons, yes.
Like singing lessons.
Okay.
Yes.
What are you trying to say? That I'm not a good singer? I thought we were friends here.
I don't know.
My feelings.
I don't know. Sing me something.
Maybe I need another round of tequila here. But there's so much more that we got to talk about, Andrew. Like, I seriously, like, I wish that we can like have like, can we do some more episodes together? Would that be okay with you?
I would love to.
Okay,
But
good.
You asked some really good questions. Very
Thank you.
poignant questions.
And I've got no script, by the way. No script. I'm just coming from
Yeah.
here.
Oh, I like no.
I love it.
No script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we? Because again, I would love to talk not only about what we're talking about, but also most importantly, I want to talk about your book. I want to know more about the book. I would actually love to read that. Do you know? Can you tell us where we can find your book?
Yes. You can find your book in my office. No, I'm just kidding. Here's my book. You can find it everywhere. I mean, the best prices, though, are on Amazon. So if you go to my website, 33,000dates.com, so it's like 33000dates.com, there'll be a link to take you to, where you can buy the book, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all the normal suspects. And then there's a really good quiz on my website too. That's a dating quiz, and it's 10 questions, and it kind of shows you where you stack up against everybody else in the dating world.
I'm going to put that on my TikTok feed tonight. I'm going to say, go to her website and let's do a quiz. I want to see how well you do. I think that's a great idea.
I would love that. And send it to me.
I will. Absolutely. I'll definitely do that. Yeah.
Okay.
But like I said, I think I would love to do more with you because, again, I love our conversation. I do believe that you and I have this ultimate goal is to helping others find love, including myself. I want to find love. You've already found it. So let's keep doing this because again, I truly believe that everyone is destined to find someone. And I know everyone's jaded right now.
I do too. There's somebody for everybody,
Absolutely.
There's a lid for every pot or a pot for every lid, or however that thing goes. But I totally believe that too.
Yeah. Well, let me close this out here. I got my ultimate question I always ask my guests at the end of the show is, if there happens to be a song, if there happens to be a song that helps you on your good or bad days, when it comes to dating, when it comes to love, when it comes to heartbreak, tell us what's the name of that song.
What's the name of the song that I like?
Yeah, if there happens to be a song that resonated with you in the past that helped you get out of your heartbreak, or one that gets you excited when you go on dates, or when you're falling in love and have that really intimate moment with that person.
Well, you know what? I think you just heard one of my favorite songs by Pharrell, right?
I did.
Happy. And then I would probably say anything by the Moody Blues really like mellows me out and just makes me happy.
Nights in white satin.
Right.
Never reaching the end. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, mellow and cool. Yeah.
I love that. Man, look at you. I love that. I love it. Yeah, I know. I love Moody Blues. I grew up to them when I was a kid. So amazing band.
Yeah, me too.
But I gotta say, you are amazing too. And I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with me today. I had a really great time. And I'm looking forward to more Yeah, get her book, by the way. It's available on Amazon. I'll post a link here on the podcast here, but be sure to check it out. And
Thank you.
also, we're gonna do a quiz later on tonight. We're gonna fill up your email here later on, so let's
Good.
make it happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
You'll get your dating scores. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? This was a great chat. I really enjoyed it. You and I had good chemistry about romance.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that.